Personally, I think that even if mixology isn't your hobby, your thing, your part of your identity, whatever, that there are just some drinks you should know how to make, just in the interest of being a well-rounded Renaissance person. And to that end, today we're gonna cover the 5 gin drinks I think you should know by heart, plus 1 bonus drink, okay? Let's go! Gin drinks you gotta know by heart. It is probably a cliche that this whole thing is going to start with the Martini. We gotta do the Martini, we should just get it right out of the way. It is perhaps the most quintessential gin drink there is. You should know how to make it by heart. And you should know how to make it, I think, in the classic way. Of course, there is this idea that a gin martini should be London dry gin and have just a little bitty skosh of vermouth in it. That is a very modern idea, and by modern, I mean World War II and later. It's a mid-century concept. When you look at the origins of the martini and when that drink was formulated, and I think more importantly, when it became popular, you're going to find that there's a heck of a lot more vermouth in it. There's a lot of debate about this. There are, and I am one of them, many people who would tell you that without a fair amount of vermouth in this drink, with just a little skosh of vermouth in the drink, it really kind of ceases to be a cocktail in a meaningful way and converts itself into a glass of gin. And the reason I think you should know how to make it this way is, 1, because it's interesting and you want to be an interesting person, and also 2, because you may have had a martini that was made in a more modern post-World War II mid-century style way and found it something that you hated. It doesn't need to be that drink. It could be a much better drink, a much more well-rounded, well-balanced drink that is still gin forward and that I think is a little bit more accessible and a lot more enjoyable, okay? So let's make this drink, and it's not shaken. And if you're interested in knowing all about the origins of cocktails and the kind of history behind these drinks, you can do no better than the book Imbibe by David Wondrich. I couldn't recommend it more strongly. I think it is the foundation of your home bar. Get a copy if you don't have it. You can use the link in the pin comment below or up here in the corner. This is where you'll find a lot more history on the martini and a few other variations from that point in time, those 1890s when this drink became popular. Get you a mixing glass. You don't need a mixing glass. You can use whatever you want. Get the gin of your choice. Tanqueray is a perfectly good serviceable standard gin. We will be using many different gins in this episode just for fun. But if you needed 1 gin, 1 London dry gin in your bar, Tanqueray is probably where you want to be. 2 ounces of London dry gin for a martini. You can go more, but you got to scale everything else up too. A lot of people like to build these around 3 ounces. That's a cocktail and a half in my opinion. And frankly, I'm too much of a lightweight to be starting my night out that way. And here we want to use a Dolan dry vermouth. There's, I think, a little bit of confusion here too, that Martini and Rossi is where the martini gets its name from. That does not seem to be the case. Last time I checked, history is always changing. We're always discovering new things. Last I checked, that was not the origin of the name of the drink, although there was some debate about it. Now, you can do this in a 2-to-1 ratio or a 3-to-1 ratio, and I think that it remains very, very classic. I like a 2-to-1 ratio, so I'll be pouring 2 ounces of gin into my martini. Like anything that we would call a cocktail, there is a 3rd ingredient traditionally included in a martini. It is orange bitters. Why was this omitted from the martini and for so many years that it became the standard to not include it? Well, frankly, I think it's because orange bitters was really, really hard to get for a really long number of years. Famous bartender who is sadly no longer with us, Gaz Reagan, to my knowledge, basically reinvigorated the existence of orange bitters after many years of it not being available at all. There was a time during the cocktail renaissance from the early 2000s when bitters were really hard to get, and a lot of people had to make their own bitters and find old recipes for bitters and try to recreate them, and there has become this kind of hobby of making your own bitters, which I don't really indulge in because frankly now there are many, many, many kinds of bitters out there. I may do an episode on bitters making. Let me know if you want something like that. I think it's probably worth investing some time and effort into. It is a bit of a job, but I think we could do it on the show. There's no reason we shouldn't. People keep asking me to do it. Anyway, 2 dashes of orange bitters. 1, 2, and my first dash was a little bit of a dinker, so I give it a little third. If you're gonna ask me which orange bitters are in that, I don't know. Those might be Angostora's orange bitters. They might be Gaz's. I don't know anymore. They've been in there for a long time. Let's get some ice and stir this drink. You ever think about what it would be like if Fred Schneider was the lead singer of the Misfits? I do. I killed my baby today. Stir that up. Get your chilled glass right on in there. You'll notice I didn't put in a splash of olive brine because this is not a dirty martini, and I don't think you should be drinking dirty martinis. But if you were going to drink a dirty martini, I don't know why, but I feel like a dirty martini should be the shook martini. This has no fruit juices or opaque ingredients. It is a stirred drink. If you want to shake it, that's your business. If you like it colder and maybe a little bit more diluted, but this is the way it would be traditionally served. Additionally, I may or may not, depending on my mood, add olives to this drink. Traditionally, in most descriptions, I find that this drink calls for a twist of a lemon peel. And hopefully that was on camera. You can see that beautiful explosive spray of lemon oil, which tells you that it's working really good. And that is a gin martini. I like that a lot. I'm not the biggest martini fan, to be perfectly honest, but I'm really enjoying this one. This is on the money for me. It is bright, it is fresh. There are notes of lemon, citrus, and just, it's very, very well balanced. I don't particularly find this one to be overly piney or junipery. A lot of people find gin to be a divisive flavor. Certainly all those notes are still there. But they are moderated by a reasonable amount of vermouth. God damn, that's a good martini. Hell yes. I was about to ruin it by adding some olives. I'm not going to do that. I will say this. I love a cocktail olive. Put it in your drink if you like it. I personally would rinse off the brine before I put them into my drink. They're in there. The brine's in there to keep them fresh. I just don't want all that oil and brininess and saltiness in a martini. I want it to be bright, fresh, uplifting, tart, and balanced. I don't want it to be a heavy, kind of salty affair. Fuck, that's a good martini. And it does look beautiful in this glass because all the glassware on How to Drink is provided by Whiskey Glassware. They are the official glassware provider of How to Drink. Every glass you see me use on the show, unless otherwise indicated, is a Whiskey glass. You should use the link in the pin comment below or up here in the corner because you're watching this, you need barware, you need bar tools, you need glassware. And if you use code HowToDrink20 at checkout, you will get 20% off your entire order at Whiskey. Check them out. They make these beautiful glasses that I love putting cocktails in and blah, blah, blah. Mother, tell your children not to look my way, not to hear my words, what they mean, what they say. Mother. All right. I love the B-52s, I want to point out, and I love Fred Schneider. And some very long time ago, their social person reached out and asked if I wanted to do something with them. And I fucked up because I didn't know what to do, and I was starstruck, and nothing happened. Fuck, Greg, you screwed it up. All right, let's make a Negroni. This drink should be, in my opinion, built in the glass. You're free to make it in a mixing glass if you want and pour it in. I would not shake this drink. Don't shake this drink. The Negroni is a classic cocktail invented for Count Negroni, who wanted an Americano with a bit more kick. And by an Americano, I mean the aperitif, the mixed aperitif. I do not mean the coffee beverage, the hot water and espresso, so-called. By the way, I don't believe it comes from being an American's preferred drink. I think an Americano, just because of some other things there, it comes from it being bitter. But I digress. The Negroni is a popular drink if you want to be a gracious host and if you want to look like a classy person who knows their way around and about a thing or two, you should be able to make a Negroni. And it is a very, very easy drink to make. It is a thoughtless drink because it is made in equal parts, although you can rebalance it if you so choose. Historic, classic, bitter, and refreshing. I, again, am not always a fan of a Negroni. Something about them can be a headache trigger for me. Just something to be aware of. However, when I happen to be in the mood for a Negroni, nothing else will do. Nothing else will suffice. Let's get a glass. Build this drink in the glass you're going to drink it out of over a big old piece of ice. Let's grab a gin. I'm going to make this one with Ford's London Dry Gin. I used to use this on the show all the time and in my life, and I stopped seeing it on shelves. I love Ford's Gin. It's good, good stuff. And I've gone ahead and screwed up. So this drink is made equal parts. As I have poured 2 ounces of gin into my jigger, apparently I'll be making a double Negroni today. Do as I say and not as I do. Make yours with 1 ounce of gin because you're not insane. An equal measure of Campari. Campari is a famously bright red and bitter aperitif. This is a very large Negroni. I'm looking at this and I'm now becoming a little bit concerned. I think that increasingly the vermouth of choice to use with this drink is Carpana Antica, which is a very vanilla forward vermouth. It is delicious, much loved. There is an argument that I have seen made by David Wondrich that it is not technically in the tradition of a vermouth. That doesn't matter because I am a basic bitch about my cocktails and this is the way I want it. If you wanted to use a different vermouth, might I point you in the direction of a Dolan Red? Take an orange, pull that orange peel, snapped in half. That's weird. Never seen that happen. It doesn't matter because in this case, I am not going to perch it on the glass or anything like that. I want to drop it right in there. That's the way I like a Negroni. Treat it like it's a bit of an old-fashioned. Drop your orange peel right on in there. It's a rugged drink. You know, give it a little sprezzatura. You know, it's kind of, this is an Italian playboy of a drink, okay? It's got that sprezzatura, that devil-may-care vibe, you know? Salud. So much evolution in this drink. In truth, I could never drink this much Negroni. In fact, I prefer like a half a Negroni, just for my own purposes. I don't know that Campari always agrees with me. It just doesn't. There's something about it that's a bit of a trigger for migraines in my particular case. Can't quite answer that one. I don't know, just is. The flavor here is a delight though. It really is sweet and bitter and round and chocolatey. Maybe some raisin notes in there, some kind of dried stone fruits. I'm not gonna lie, there are moments in there that remind me of Coca-Cola or a Chinota or something in that space. I know that sounds crazy, but I'm picking up on it. There are like spicy notes in there, probably coming from the vermouth. But yeah, I think it was Darcy O'Neill, you should check him out, Art of Drink, who said that the most popular Amaro in the world is Coca-Cola, and I think he is right. So it's not without some precedent that I would pick up on Coca-Cola notes in there. I'd love to know if you pick them up either. The Negroni, the Martini, classics of your spirit-forward gin drinks. You gotta know, they should be in your gin repertoire, your ginatoire. It's got a certain je ne sais quoi. Let's make a Collins. The Collins, to my way of thinking, is the quintessential gin highball, sour, long drink. I'm not actually sure what you want to call this, but you should be able to make one. They're very, very simple. It is, when you put this all together, not much more than a sparkling lemonade made with gin. A note about very clear ice like this. So first off, how do I make my clear ice? I buy it from a ice supplier because I have a YouTube show and I need a lot of ice. It's just not practical for me to make that. They make it in a machine called a Kleinbell and then they cut it with a food-safe bandsaw. I recently had a comment about why would you put that straight into your glass because it's not tempered. As soon as you put a drink on that, it's going to crack. I do that because it doesn't bother me. But if you are concerned about that and you're putting effort into making your clear ice, you might want to do this. Leave it out before you put it in the drink. Let the outside of it come up to temperature. They call this tempering the ice. When it starts to sweat a little bit, it's ready, and then you can put it into the drink and it should not crack. I personally think that the cracks running through a perfectly clear, otherwise clear piece of ice are beautiful. They provide a kind of element of randomness and chaos that is appealing to my soul. I love kind of letting mediums go where they want. Did not occur to me when I started talking about ice that it would go where it just did. But yeah, I kind of, you know, when I went to art school, I liked working with charcoals because I enjoyed dancing in that sloppy chaos. So, wow, Greg, what a pompous asshole you sound like. Cut a lemon in half. And put an ounce of lemon juice into your glass. There we go. I ain't no goddamn son of a bitch. You better think about it, baby. I'm so sorry. I don't know why. Now, we need simple syrup here. My simple syrup is a 2-to-1 ratio. That means it's 2 parts sugar to 1 part water. I like this with about a half an ounce of simple. Some people might want more, some people want less. For the most part, in any cocktail, your simple syrup and your bitters are to taste. So do it that way. The other thing, I'm making this drink with lemon juice. That is the standard way to do it. Of late, I've really liked them with lime, and with that half ounce of simple, kind of puts it into the territory of something like a Ricky almost, but like a sweetened Ricky. I like those a lot. I'm gonna use Aviation Gin for this one. This is a London, well, there's two, I would say it's still a London Dry style gin. Some call it a New American gin. It's fine. By the way, the Aviation, spoiler alert, not making it into this list of the gin drinks you gotta know, but just barely not making it in there. And Aviation Gin has no relationship to that cocktail, the Aviation. You don't need to use it. Give that a stir. Now we need some club soda, soda water, seltzer, whatever you want to call it. It's carbonated water. Question, what's up with my glass? Because right now we're way down here and we have all this to fill. That is kind of a lot of space. This glass in particular probably should have been a double. That's okay. I may just not fill it all the way. There you go. Generally speaking, you want 2 to 3 times, you know, so you want to either double or triple the volume of your drink when you add seltzer. I guess that's a personal opinion and to taste. And there you have it, a Collins. Deliciously refreshing, super approachable, still tastes like gin. I don't think I would ever call a Collins a spirit-forward drink. It is sweet, balanced, lemony, bright and refreshing, just a kind of a delight, a drink that anybody will enjoy. And I think that even in this day and age, there's a really good chance that if you're having guests over or a date, they may be in a position of never having had a Collins with fresh lemon juice, and that sucks. Make it for them the right way, and I think that they will appreciate it quite a bit, even if they don't know what they like to drink. This is a great drink for someone who doesn't know what they like to drink. It's very, very approachable. If cocktails aren't really their bag, you can't really go wrong with this. It's gonna be perfect. There you go. Drink number 3 of the drinks made from gin that you just should know how to make. The next one is the gin and tonic. I'm gonna make this drink the way that I think it is traditionally made. However, just recently I did an episode on cocktails of the Cold War. It was actually a 2-parter. In the Western Powers episode, I happen to make Ian Fleming's preferred version of a gin and tonic, and I am converted. I absolutely love it. I encourage you, if you want to make a gin and tonic, check out that link and up here in the corner and visit that episode in a moment. However, if somebody else asked you for a gin and tonic, this is probably what they meant. A glass, and yes, usually a double old-fashioned, a rocks glass, something to that effect. Personally, I think you do this on cracked ice. Just like that. A squeeze of lime juice is fine, but as long as we're measuring, let's do half an ounce. Almost, but not quite. I'm gonna use Monkey 47. We're gonna do 1.5 ounces of Monkey 47 here. Pay attention to my ratios, not my measures, because why am I doing 1.5 ounces? Because this glass is a little bit smaller, and I wanna make sure I have enough room for all of the tonic water. If I was using a larger glass, I might go to 2 ounces, you know? It's one of those kinds of things. You gotta think about your medium. You gotta go where the medium tells you to. And as an art form in cocktails, glassware is part of the medium. It's a mixed media art form. Glassware is a component of it. Maybe you would call that a found media component. I could measure this, I'm not going to. Here's what I will tell you. with a gin and tonic, most of you, it's not a spirit mixer drink. I don't want you to think of this as a spirit mixer drink. A gin and tonic is not a rum and coke. It's not a vodka and seltzer. Honestly, it's not even a Collins, where the Collins has quite a bit of its seltzer in it. Because tonic water is a very powerful flavor. The history of this drink is that it was invented to make drinking tonic water easier, more palatable, tastier, because tonic water is super duper bitter. Why would you need to do that? Well, because way back in the day, in the days of the British Raj, the British Army was getting malaria, as was everybody, and the cure for that is tonic water, or actually quinine, or it was at the time because of the strain of malaria that was going around. I don't think it works anymore. But British soldiers were instructed to ingest X amount of quinine every day, and they came up with the gin and tonic to make that a little bit more palatable, if you're looking for a bit of history. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to basically double my volume here, maybe a bit more, honestly, maybe a bit less. I would say that in general, with a gin and tonic, I would aim for slightly more tonic water than gin, okay? And that's a gin and tonic. Oh, and a lovely gin and tonic she is too. Just perfect for me. Bright, fresh, balanced. This tonic is Fever Tree. I think it has an appropriate amount of sweetness in it. As far as commercially available tonics go, this might be one of my favorites. You can totally make your own tonic water or use a tonic syrup. Tomer's is a tonic syrup that I love that is ready to mix into a drink. And in that case, you use different ratios, like half an ounce of Tomer's plus the seltzer, and then you have tonic water built into the drink. I think that you want a bit of sweetness in your tonic water, and traditionally it does have some sweetness in it. What do we got here? I don't know. How much sugar? 12 grams of sugar. So it's not super sweet, but there's some sweetness, and there's a bit left in the can anyway. So the drink opens with this balanced sweetness, these lime notes, these gin notes. I really am enjoying the interplay of that sweetness, the lime, and the gin, the juniper, the vegetal notes of gin, but it finishes in this very palate cleansing, bracing, bitter way. With this ratio, it is bitter without being overpoweringly bitter. I would say that a Negroni is probably both sweeter and more bitter. You can be sweet and bitter. Bittersweet is a thing. I always forget how much I love a good gin and tonic, and that is a great gin and tonic. Let's get along to the last word. One of my favorite cocktails of all time. You gotta know how to make this drink. It's also really, 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 really easy to make. It is 4 equal parts. I would qualify it as a sour, and there should be classic cocktails, long drinks, sours, wine-based, like a Martini, Martinez kind of thing, or a Manhattan. Those should also be in your repertoire. This will be our sour, the last word. Felt like I was gonna say the backside of water. We're gonna start with an ounce of lime juice. You don't have to make these with an ounce. You can go lower than that, less than an ounce, but I'm using an ounce because I like big round numbers. But whatever you do, it's equal parts. And I love when just things magic out that way. They just work out that way. It's wonderful. It's not arbitrarily equal parts. It just happens to work best at equal parts. There is no juice in these limes. What? There we go. 1 ounce of that. I've talked a lot about how the last word is a formula for cocktails. You can apply the last word formula to a number of drinks. And in fact, I think there's probably more last word variations than maybe any other cocktail. By the way, that was an ounce of maraschino. I don't think I've ever made a last word with Hendrick's. Hendrick's is a weirder gin. It's more a London dry gin than it's not, but it has a lot of different notes in it, maybe some cucumber notes and stuff like that. 1 ounce of our Hendrick's gin. I'm trying to keep it fresh, use different things here. Chartreuse, 1 ounce. A lot of people are commenting, I don't know, there's been a shortage of chartreuse. I saw 5 or 6 bottles at my liquor store the other day, so it's not affecting this area. Chartreuse is a powerfully herbal kind of liqueur. I think it's a category actually of Genepe, and if you think about the last word as being a drink comprised of base spirit, a sour, a herbal liqueur, and a Swedish liqueur. You can take that formula and apply it to just about anything, and the cocktails will almost always work out. In fact, I did a whole episode about that. I'll throw a link down here and up here in the corner. You should check that out. And if you are a person who uses How to Drink as, you know, your own personal cocktail guide, I made something for you. I made the HTD app. Spoiler alert, you gotta be a member of my Patreon to get access, so use the link in the pin comp below or up here in the corner. YouTube is honestly a terrible thing to use as a cocktail guide. It's great to do this, to learn and talk and shoot the shit about cocktails, but if you're making drinks for friends, I don't think you want to go to YouTube and Google Greg's How to Drink Mai Tai last word or whatever. The How to Drink app solves that problem. A lot of people are using the show as a personal cocktail guide. People seem to be enjoying this. We have a private Discord for patrons. I hear a lot, people like this thing a lot. There's a lot of cool things going on over there too. If you love the show, do me and you and everybody involved in this show a favor and check out the Patreon. I'm quite certain there'll be something over there that you really appreciate. And I will certainly appreciate it. But check it out. You can look by drinks or episodes, just checking that we're on there. And also this is web-based. This is, oh, look at that, no drinks found. Why? Because I have Pegu Club left over in my search, and also some other things. It's got every drink I've ever made on the show. Every episode we add the drinks. Here is my fresh Paloma recipe, and you can see the breakdown right there of that. There are tags. You can add it to your keeper, and then if we go back to drinks and you do switch for faves, look, there's your short list of favorite drinks that you want to keep in your pocket at all times. You can use a preparation method or ingredients or tags, or even, you know, if it was an adaptation, like you want to see my Back to the Future drinks or something like that, you can find those very, very quickly. I'm very proud of it because I made it and I'm not a programmer and it was hard and I did it anyway. And I think you'll appreciate it if you appreciate the show. Please check out my Patreon and the link in the pin comp below or up here in the corner. YouTube revenue sucks anymore. I don't know what's going on there. And without Patreon, this show, which is my full-time job and Meredith's full-time job, and a couple of freelancers, not their whole job because they work for other people too, but a good chunk of their income. It takes all that time to make these episodes every week. Without Patreon, unfortunately, this show just dies. So if you love the show, just take a look. I think there'll be something over there that you really like and that it'll make it worth your while. To the patrons of the show, thank you all so much. You make this possible and worthwhile. All of this is impossible without your assistance. This is for you. Let's shake this drink. Get your ice in your tin. Crack some of that ice up. Boo! Strain that into your glass. I don't normally garnish these, but we can do that. I have this lime. Stick a lime wheel on there. Beautiful! A last word to turn heads and be envious of. I freaking love these drinks. The balance between the tartness of the lime, the sweetness of the chartreuse and maraschino is just on the money. It is so mouth-wateringly wonderful and spiced. I don't want to say spicy. For some reason in my brain that implies like hot and spicy, but it's spiced. There are so many just wonderful little flavors happening in there. I always get black pepper from chartreuse. In the maraschino, you are getting this woodsy, kind of sweet, nutty. I don't know why I'm thinking of like the wet walnuts that you put onto ice cream for some reason in there, or like a, roasted almonds. The ones that the guy on the street sells in New York City, the roasted almonds, love it. I always kind of get that from that. It is from cherries, but I don't. It doesn't taste like cherries. Maybe it tastes like the cherries it comes from, the Marasca cherry. And the gin is the right spirit, because a lot of other spirits with this particular build of this might get in the way. I mean, you could just swap in some whiskey and you'd still have a drink, but I think they would be in a different kind of tension. Whereas the gin here has those herbal components. It has those vegetable components. I really like what the Hendrix is doing in this drink. That might be my go-to gin for the last word going forward. It has a bright vegetalness. I know there's some cucumber notes in there, maybe some rose notes in there as well. I think I've picked up on in the past. And it just works. It just works so nicely. It is such a wonderful, sour, upright, tasty little treat of a cocktail. Oh God, it's like just mouth-wateringly perfect. I freaking love that drink. So that's 5 drinks, and when I thought about this series, I thought it should be 5 drinks every adult should know, but there was one more that I really thought needed to go in this list. So this is the bonus drink, the 6th drink, which often enough, there's a bonus drink for patrons. In this case, I just think we need 6 drinks for this episode. And it's a drink I love, but very seldom make. It's probably been years since I've made one of these. A Singapore Sling is a foundational gin drink. It goes all the way back to like the early 1900s. It is an aristocratic drink from Singapore that the British certainly enjoyed in their fine clubs. It is a drink that is most associated with the Long Bar, and I forget the name of the hotel that it comes from. Hit me up in the comments with the name of the hotel. It's just slipped my mind, and I don't have like notes on that or anything like that. But in truth, according to David Wondrich here in Imbibe, it actually originates elsewhere. Get a copy of the book. So we build this in a tall glass, and it's another one that's pretty easy. It's equal parts with a couple of caveats. We want 1 ounce of cherry heering, or, I'm wondering about this. I have this Licor de Ginja, which is 20% ABV. This is, I'm gonna go with the Luxardo. I just picked this up. I really like this stuff. It's apparently a traditional liqueur from Portugal. And I've really enjoyed it, but I think it's the wrong one to use here for a couple of reasons. I like cherry Luxardo Sangre Molaco, and of course the most commonly used is heering. What would be, I think, incorrect is something, there's like some debate about it that it should actually have like a Kirschwasser or even a maraschino in there. Those might be nice drinks, but I don't think that they are traditional to this drink. The drink calls to be pink. 1 ounce. And due to the size of my glass, I'm bumping up to 1.5 ounces. This is a huge glass. We're gonna go with the Tanqueray, 1.5 ounces of that. I'm building this drink in a crazy order. Normally you would go from cheap to expensive ingredients, but I'm not. 1.5 ounces of Benedictine. This is not B&B, that's Benedictine and brandy. This is Benedictine. This is an herbal liqueur. And honestly, now that I'm looking at it, the Singapore Sling is a last word. Kind of. It's the same formula. And because I'm a dummy and I went to 1.5, I need 1.5 ounces of lime juice. And it's weird that this drink isn't shaken, but it's a long drink, so it's not shaken. You're just gonna stir it with some ice. Bingo. 1.5 ounces of lime juice. Angostura bitters to taste. Often 1 to 2 dashes, often more. I went with 4 today. Crack some ice in the glass. My hand is wet, so my ice is sticking to my hand. Let me give that a good stir. Top that up with about 1 ounce or 2 of soda. Stick a straw in there, and that is a Singapore Sling. I haven't had one of these in a long time. Woo! That's nice. It is very nicely balanced. Not too sweet at all. Got a lot of herbal notes in there. I love what the Angostura is doing in here. The Benedictine is, how can I describe Benedictine? It's an herbal liqueur. I think that by this point we should all know what that means. It has notes of probably Genepi, has notes of plants. My brain is not working. It's got notes of plants in there. There's a lot of plants in there. Herbs, things that are growing. I always imagine like some beautiful French hillside with wild flowers and herbs and weeds and just sort of scooping them all up and stuffing them in a bottle. Because that's kind of what it tastes like. Really good balance. That's a perfect. You get this bright, tart lime juice, and lime and cherry love each other. That's like, oh, that's like one of those magic things. And it does give way to this cherry thing, but it's not sweet cherries. This is like kind of funky cherries. This is a very mature, oaky, aged kind of a cherry note that just sort of cleanses the palate and kind of leaves you with a little bit of an aftertaste that I personally love. You can really kind of wrap your mouth around it and chew on it. I love this drink. This is an excellent drink. And I think that is the gin pantheon. There are a couple of gin tiki drinks that are worth knowing, but that'll be part of a tiki episode. I'm going to do a whole tiki episode on tiki essentials, like 5 tiki drinks every adult should know. It's like a whole separate idea. This was 5 + 1 gin drinks that everybody should know. And I really think that like these are all kind of foundational and basic drinks. These are the centerpiece, if you will, of the mixological world of gin. And if you knew no other, I mean, honestly, even if you knew just 1 or 2 of these, I think you would be ahead of the game. But, you know, just in the interest of knowing a little bit of everything, just in the interest of being a gracious host or of being most interesting person in the room, you know, that kind of a character, just know how to do these. I think so. I think so. This, for me, right now, is the drink of the hour. Partially because the other ones have warmed up by now. Man, that's freaking on the money. I think these are... I wonder if Mrs. HTD would appreciate these. I'm going to go find out. Until then, thank you all so much for hanging out with me. I'll be back in another How to Drink adventure.